Are we using these?
I don't know.
You need them?
English, I think. Okay.
Right, yeah.
No, I think it will be. Yeah, no, the question will be in English.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Thank you, and welcome to the press conference of Seven Veils. The film is playing the Berlinale Special Gala as an international premiere, and I'm very glad to welcome our guest here today for this press conference. I will start from the opposite side on your left with Douglas Smith, actor playing in the film. She was at Berlinale in 2013 in the leading role in Lovelace, and she's back now also as the lead character in Seven Veils. Please welcome Amanda Seyfried. He was also previously at Berlinale as a jury president in 2003, Antoine, writer and director. And in a debut in a feature film, but also not a debut as a singer, Ambur, Braid. Welcome. Let's start from over there in the back. Yes.
This is Mark Harapetian, founder and publisher of film magazine Spirits, A Smile in the Storm since his 16th living year. Barev, Antoine. Nice to see you again, and really a big compliment from my heart. This is one of your finest films, and maybe, in my opinion, your best, what I watched from your films. So I think you're very connected with opera before, but why exactly Salome? And do you think you can bring also, without the film, this opera on stage again? Because maybe you did before, I'm not sure, but you want to be also in the opera house director of this film? Of this opera, of course.
Yeah, I mean, this opera I first staged in 1996, this production. So it's been remounted 7 times. And when I was told it was going to be remounted last year at this time, I started thinking of this film. And I started thinking of Amanda, because we had promised that we would work together again one day after Clea. We had a great experience on that film. And this character began to take shape, and I became obsessed with it. And this story is so fascinating, the story of Salome, the history of it, all the artists who have attempted to explore what this myth means from the Bible, and all through the 19th century, Oscar Wilde, Richard Strauss. So it's a story about really this idea of desire and what happens when you don't have something that you feel you need, and the way we act. So it seemed to have a lot of implications in this character of Jeanine and what she's dealing with in her life.
Please.
Claudia Schulmerich, Frankfurt am Main, Weltexpress, ja. Ja, ich warte.
Ah, okay.
Also, Claudia Schulmerich, Frankfurt am Main, mit einem sehr bedeutenden Opernhaus, und die Zeitung ist Weltexpresso. Meine Frage, nachdem erstmal Respekt für Oscar Wilde, der hat 1891 das Stück geschrieben und 1905 in Dresden uraufgeführt, ist die Frage nach dem Opernhaus. Warum haben Sie Stuttgart genommen? Stuttgart ist Klaus Zehelein, ist eine sehr bedeutende Zeit gewesen, aber Frankfurt mit Michael Gielen auch. Und ich weiß, wovon ich spreche. Zweitens, wo spielt die Oper? In welcher Stadt, in welchem Opernhaus, und wo ist das Zuhause unserer Regisseurin? Und die eigentliche Frage ist eine kleine Szene im Film, als die Zweitbesetzung zum ersten Mal probt. Sie sprechen nicht über das Stück, sondern Sie tragen das Stück vor, aber auf Englisch. Aber Sie müssen ja Deutsch singen, und das hat mich gestört.
Those are great questions. Stuttgart, really, because we like the name, the sound of it, and my producing partner, Neve, where are you? He's entirely responsible for the fact that it's Stuttgart. He said it has to be Stuttgart because it sounds funny. So that's why it's Stuttgart. And I'm not joking. There's a very interesting story of the history of the text. It was written in French by Oscar Wilde. It was translated into English by his young lover, Alfred Douglas. And then, as you know, the German translation is by Hedwig Lachmann. And then it was produced by Max Reinhardt. So Max Reinhardt's production is what caught Richard Strauss's attention. So there's a whole history of this, but the text in English is what they're reading because they want to go back to the original story. As you know, Richard Strauss cut the text by a half. Like the play is half the length of the original, the libretto is half the length of the play. But the text was important for these understudies to research, to go back to. That's why. It's taking place in Toronto at the Canadian Opera Company. So that's the home of the Canadian Opera Company in Toronto. And she's coming from, she lives in another city. She could be coming in from the States or she'd be coming from Western Canada. We don't know where her home is.
Please.
Hello. Okay. It's Yannis Raouzeos from Greece. Nice of having you here. A question first to Mr. Egoyan about the film. In my eyes, seems that the whole complexity of the combination of opera, drama, and the rest of the actions that the characters are taking inside the films are somehow representations of a psychoanalytical approach to reveal what happened to the main character. So in this, let's say, mirror-like psychoanalytical approach, I would like you to make a comment on the directing and the general idea. And also to Ms. Seyfried, how much it was, let's say, tensed for you to play this character with all these close-ups and everything that show all the emotions, the continuous and changing emotions inside this complexity of psychoanalytical mirrors. Thank you.
Over to you.
Oh, me? Yeah, tense. My body was tense for most of this very short but very challenging work. But I love, it's like a playground for me. I do love a challenge. I think I can speak for a lot of artists when I say that, but I think what was the most fun, albeit tense, was switching from feeling things from the faraway past for Jeanine, and then the more recent loss of her partner, and having to face everything, really, the past, the present, the loss. In certain scenes, it was just confounded, and that was sometimes confusing. But because Adam is so adept at keeping you on track and reminding you of what's happening, it was easy to remember what the focus was, which was 3 different things at once, which is, I mean, I feel like sometimes when you're watching it, it might just be me being very frustrated and confused and working for the character, but for the most part, I felt like I had a great grasp on the fact that she was, you know, having a reckoning of sorts, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes it really, for me, a very unusual character. I mean, I think we see a lot of dramas where people are dealing with trauma, and usually it's not available to them until something releases it. But what fascinated me about Jeanine is that she's very aware of what's happened to her. She's aware of the relationship with her father. She's aware of the relationship with Charles. She's aware of what's happening with her husband. All of these things are very available to her. So what she's not prepared for is what happens when all of this is combined and she's in the process of creating a work of art. That somehow she wasn't expecting that this crucible would react in this way. And that's what makes it a very unusual character, I think. And she, obviously, Amanda's brilliant. She's able to capture this with such a nuance and subtlety.
In this regard, Eto, may I ask you to comment on the character of Charles? Because it's a character you have written somehow without him being in the film. It's written through the memories and the impression and the charisma that, and the impression you left on all the other characters. What about that character and how you designed it, how you conceived it?
There was a version where we saw him, but it felt to be actually diminishing what the effect would have on these characters if he was actually materialized. So it felt that it was stronger not to actually see him. And then he becomes blended into other characters in an interesting way. And it actually reflects the psychological impact that he's had. My hope when you're making a film is to try and create a language that represents what the characters are experiencing. And not to be too dramaturgical about the construction, but to find a language which allows us access to what they're feeling and what their emotions are.
We have a question down there, and then we go here. Yeah.
Hi, question from Brazil, Rodrigo Fonseca, Correio da Manhã. Amazing film, thank you very much. I think that I would risk to say that since Calendar, your films are not only telling stories, but also reflecting about technologies, especially the technologies we use to tell stories. In the case of this film, we have the podcast, a cell phone call. I would like to hear you about that, the use of technology, specific, these communication devices, interfering in the structure of communication. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I mean,
you have 13 minutes.
Yeah. I've written, like, so many people have talked about this far more eloquently than I can say in a brief period of time, except, I'm dealing with characters who live in our present, so they are all very familiar with technology. What was interesting here is this use of the older archival tapes and her accessing these older images and almost being tormented by how powerful those images are to her. And then we also exaggerated, with the calls that she's having with her family, where we're seeing her reflection in the screen all the time. So she's actually in those conversations in a way that's maybe a bit expressionistic. But I'm just, the characters live in today's world, and so they are obviously fluent in the technologies we all use. And I think that any opera company now is very aware of marketing through all these ancillary kind of comments, right? Like they will have people talking about the props or talking about, like, it's part of the marketing of any opera now is to use social media. So it's not unnatural that they all have cell phones and that they're recording what they're doing. I've been asked to do it when I do operas. You're asked to do it all the time. I have to say, Ambur is going to be performing here at the Komischaper next month. She's playing Senta in The Flying Dutchman, and she's really one of our greatest singers. Canada has a long history of producing amazing opera singers, and Ambur is really our star. So we're very proud that she's going to be actually on stage here in Berlin next month.
Good afternoon, Mareike Drünkler. I'm here for the BZ. I was wondering, Ms. Seyfried, could you maybe tell us a little more about your character and if you relate to it in any way? And then another question for you, Mr. Johan. I was wondering, since you were president of the jury already, how do you feel about Berlin? What memories does the film festival bring back to you? And which is your favorite Berlinale movie so far?
Okay. Yes, I relate to Jeanine quite a bit. I'm in my career. It's still a bit new to play a mother. It seems like once I popped out a baby, I was just playing mothers, and that's Hollywood for you. But I do think that the roles have become way richer and definitely challenging in ways that I didn't have earlier in my career. And I felt like Jeanine is specifically, as a mother, trying to trying to figure out where she stands in her life as a parent and as a wife who is so on the precipice of separating from her husband. She's kind of hanging by a thread everywhere, with not being taken as seriously as she'd like to in her career, and just wanting more, and having had this incredibly intimate relationship with this man who was her mentor, and the director Charles, who had passed. I think she's still holding on to so many things from her past, because she does know her traumas. Like, they are very real to her. That she is definitely faced the things that have affected her and have made her who she is, and that's always very real to her. But she gets this opportunity in her career to do something really great with something she knows so well, based on the fact that she saw it as a young adult, and so I don't know. I feel like I was able to, with every character, but with every really good script and really flushed out character, I always am able to reflect on my own life, and that's just a side effect, really, of my job, which I kind of love. And she's very human, and she's dealing with things as they come, and she's not a perfect person. And I loved showing sides of her that just weren't attractive, because I think that's really necessary in any story, because none of us are perfect. I could go on. I'm really bad at putting periods on things that I'm saying, but yeah. Your turn.
My turn. Well, look, this is really emotional to be here, because my first feature film, which I made 40 years ago, Next of Kin, the first international festival it went to was Mannheim, and I remember that being an incredible. It was the first time I'd been to Europe, and my family left Egypt. The first place we stopped was Germany before we went to Canada. And then I came back for some of my early films here at the Forum. We showed family viewing in 1988. That was a momentous, at the Delphi cinema, and it was an incredible moment for me. And then Calendar, which was actually financed by Das Kleine Fernsehspiel entirely. Actually, I owe a lot to this festival. I was honored to be the president, and I'm actually really proud that the film we gave the Golden Bear to was In This World, which was one of the first films to deal with the refugee crisis, and that was 21 years ago, I think that film was made. And so I'm really, really proud about being here again, and excited about showing the film tonight. Thank you.
Please.
Hi. Am I on here?
Yes, please.
Oh, hi. Mike Roddy from Irish Arts News. I just wanted to ask Adam, very lovely movie, by the way, and I wanted to ask two-part thing. What draws you to Salome specifically? It's such a controversial opera and has been since the very beginning. I mean, I think it's been banned in various places like New York. And there have been productions over the years that were just about as wild as the one you describe. But then the second thing is, so why are you drawn to that? You've obviously done it several times. The other part of the question is, do you think that perhaps because of Tar and Maestro, that, and we've had 3 movies here, yours and Sterben and Gloria, which all sort of deal with the subject of classical music. Is the film world bringing classical music back to the people?
Well, look, there is nothing as stirring as seeing a group of human beings producing music. Like, the experience of seeing a live symphony and a live opera are transformative. And especially at this time, it's amazing that human beings can just do something together, which is so beautiful. And so I think a lot of younger people are actually connecting to the phenomenon of live music, live classical music. It's finding a new audience, especially in Toronto. We're finding this, like with the symphony and the opera house. There are younger people that are coming, and I think they're rejoicing in this gift that we've been given as human beings, to be able to make music together. And also that the opera voice is not amplified, it's real. So you're seeing a human being like creating these extraordinary sounds on stage, often against an 80-piece orchestra. So it's really very moving for a lot of people. Salome is an extraordinary story, and I think what makes it fascinating is how it's developed. In the Bible, it's very clear in Mark and Matthew that Salome asks her mother what she should do, and it's Herodias who says, behead John the Baptist. But Wilde makes this very strong shift where he has Salome defy the mother, and very explicitly has Salome say, this has nothing to do with my mother. So he's created this very complex female character, and it's full of all sorts of interpretation. I think when we did it in '96, this idea of using the dance of the Seven Veils as a flashback was really novel. I think other productions now probably have seized on this, because it's an amazing thing to have 8 minutes of wonderful music that you can do what you want with, and not necessarily have to watch someone who's not a dancer dance. Though when it's Ambur, I would have no problem watching that for 8 minutes, but often it's not something that works easily. But it really is interesting to have this flashback, I suppose.
Down, please.
Marc Cassivi from La Presse in Montreal. I was wondering if you could talk about the recurring theme of incest in your films. You hinted on it in Exotica, of course it was in The Sweet Hereafter, and in The Seven Veils.
I won't dwell on it. I mean, I have talked about it. As a teenager, I was witness to, not in my family, but there was an abusive relationship that I had a front row seat at with this person that I was very involved with. So I have this very, very powerful relationship to the subject matter as an observer.
We have one here, please.
Lazar Christimo from Derek Radio Bulgaria. 10 seconds to Douglas and Amanda. Did you see the movie? I saw it as a reference, correct me if I'm wrong, with Opening Night with Gina Rowlands and Becca Zvetis. I mean, not like an actual reference, some details. And Birdman by Inarritu with Michael Keaton. And also, I forgot the third movie. And Tom, Mr. Eguian, what you said in an interview, correct me if I'm wrong, that Amanda is an extraordinary actress, and after 15 years, you're reuniting with her because she's so gifted. What is the word? Is it unreal? What is your word for her performance in this film? Thank you.
What is my word for her performance?
One word?
One word, wow. I mean, it would just hypersensitive. Hypersensitive would be the word. Those are all great references, filmically. Yeah.
Bird. No, sorry, no. Boring answer, no. Sorry.
Okay, so we have a question over there.
Yeah, hi, Carlos Grau from Spain for Cultural Resuena. Thank you very much for this great film. I would like to hear something about Ambur, because you played amazing, it was a pleasure. So I would like to know how you were approached for the role, and how was the experience. And the second is for whoever wants to answer, what do you, no. Okay,
we have no time, just one. Thank you.
Okay. Good.
Thank you. It's a role that I adore and love because it's the ultimate love story, and so it's very fun to play. I was approached by the Canadian Opera Company and then by Adam to line it up with this film, and the beauty of opera is, again, the unamplified voices, which is the only unamplification that we have nowadays. And we can just go direct into that bone structure of yours and make you cry and weep and do all sorts of fun things when you're sitting in that house and hearing an orchestra and very loud singers. And a bit of the mystery gets taken away when you put it on film because you're a little too close. And you know, opera singers aren't exactly made for HD and close up. So, but you know, it's fun. But that's how it happened. I'd known Adam and loved him for years, and I love the work that he does with he directed Così fan tutte at the Canadian Opera Company, and of course the Salome that's been done multiple times. And then there is a plethora of other wonderful works. So it was great to be reunited, and I am thrilled to have this immortalized in a way, in this very strange means for me, and honored. But thank you for watching it.
Please.
Hello, do you hear me? Yes. Hi, my name is Carla Aguilar Lopez from Filmfilicos, a Spanish media. My question is for Ambur and Douglas. Your characters are constantly dealing with Amanda's character's frustrations, basically. And in your case, Ambur, you are constantly mirroring them. How was it for you as actors to act through her emotions, basically? Thank you.
I didn't view my character as a mirror to Amanda's character. I viewed my character as a source of affection and support and connection. And our characters have a history of knowing each other before this film takes place. And me and Amanda worked together many years ago on a television show, and so it was very exciting to get an opportunity to mine that real life personal relationship and imbue it into the story.
And I didn't feel the mirroring. I mean, maybe it's ego, but she was mirroring me, wasn't she? I mean,
Yes, I was.
That's an opera singer.
but what I was feeling in the moment, perhaps, is that we're used to dealing with directors that don't know what they're talking about a lot of the time, and so I would just stare blankly at her, and you got to read what you wanted from that.
It was, I will say, it was incredibly jarring at times to remember what I was doing. I was actually working with real opera singers who do this for a living, playing a director, and they were playing versions of themselves, and it was just, it was so true to, it was just, it was jarring at times. That's what, jarring in a good way. I loved it, but also I was just terrified because I was like, it's not me, it's, he wrote this.
So the film is actually quite personal in terms of this moment that you're referring to, because the first time I was offered to direct an opera, no one told me the details what the schedule was. So I saw the schedule, and I saw that the opening night is on the 30th, and on the 14th we go to the theater. And I thought, oh, we still have 2 weeks in the theater to keep rehearsing. So at the first orchestra rehearsal, that's when the full orchestra is there and they're playing. I wanted to change something on stage, so I actually did into the mic say, okay, stop, and they kept playing. And I actually went running towards the orchestra, and my assistant director tackled me and stopped me and said, you cannot stop the orchestra. I went, what do you mean? I said, well, it's just that it's their time now. And I went, you mean for 2 weeks we don't have any more rehearsal? No, that's it. Your rehearsal stopped when we came into the theater. And I was just shocked. No one had told me that once the orchestra is there, rehearsal time is over. And so that moment that she's creating is real. When I think the conductor starts playing while she's having a meltdown, and your reaction there is just so great. But it's actually happened to me, so it's embarrassing to admit.
We have time for one last question, please, short.
It's me again. Once you directed and wrote Ararat, a big film about the Armenian genocide. So any idea to do another film with your Armenian roots, and maybe you are the director who could create the 40 Days of Musadak? And what do you think about the promise, Kerkakorian's heritage?
Yeah, I'll probably steer away from Armenian issues because they're so complicated right now. It's not a really great time for the country, and so I'll have those conversations privately for the people who are interested, because it's a very perilous time to be Armenian, as we all know.
Okay, thank you very much. We ran out of time. Thank you for our guest. Thank you for coming.
Wow.